Welcome dear students, myself Jayashree K and Mr. Vinay HS, Assistant Professor in Department of EC at Canara Engineering College, will be explaining some of the questions based on analog communication for the Diploma CET exams. Let us see the first question. So first question is in superposition theorem, when we consider the effect of one voltage source, all the other voltage sources are dash. So the options are A shorted, B opened, C removed, D undisturbed. So what is the answer for this? Answer is A shorted. So as per the superposition theorem statement, it states that in any linear active bilateral network having more than one source, the responses across any element is the sum of the responses obtained from each source considered separately, and all other sources are replaced by their internal resistance, or voltage source is replaced by short circuit and current source is replaced by open circuit. So this is as per the given statement of superposition theorem. Question 2. You have to find the voltage Vx due to the 15 amp source using superposition theorem. So the circuit diagram is given. The answers are A 0 volt, B 2 volt, C 4 volt and D 6 volts. So the answer is 0 volt. So how is it 0 volts? So let us see the circuit here. 15 amps is acting. So as per superposition theorem, when one source is acting, all the other sources have to be suppressed. So 16 volt source is shorted, 3 amp source is open circuited and 10 volt source is shorted. Now across 15 amp source you are connecting a short circuit. So this current will be flowing only in the short and it will not flow across any other branch. Therefore, there won't be any current flowing in 20 ohms. Hence, Vx will be equal to 0. Question 3. Superposition theorem is valid for A. Linear systems. B. Nonlinear systems. C. Both linear and nonlinear systems. D. Neither linear nor nonlinear systems. So the answer is A. Linear systems. This is again as per the statement of superposition theorem. It states that in any linear active bilateral network having more than one source, the response across any element is the sum of the responses obtained from each source considered separately, and all other sources are replaced by their internal resistance, or voltage source is replaced by short circuit and current source is replaced by open circuit. So as per the statement, you can answer this question. Question 4. Superposition theorem can be applied to a linear bilateral network having A. Only one source, B. More than one source, C. No voltage source, D. No current source. So the answer is B. More than one source. Again, this is as per the superposition theorem statement. Question 5. Which of the following is also known as the dual of Thevenin's theorem? A. Norton's theorem. B. Superposition theorem. C. Maximum power transfer theorem. D. Millman's theorem. Answer is A. Norton's theorem. Norton's theorem is also known as a dual of Thevenin's theorem because in Norton's theorem we find short circuit current, which is a dual of open circuit voltage, what we find in Thevenin's theorem. Question 6. Can we use Thevenin's theorem on a circuit containing a BJT? A. Yes. B. No. C. Depends on the BJT. D. Insufficient data provided. So the answer is B. No. Why it is not possible? We can use Thevenin's theorem only for linear network, whereas BJT is a non-linear device. Hence, we cannot apply Thevenin's theorem for it. Question 7. The open circuited voltage at terminals A, B in the figure is A. 12 volts, B. 20 volts, C. 24 volts and D. 40 volts. What is the answer? Answer is C. So how is this? Let us see how this is done. So here in the circuit, we have to open circuit the RL terminals. RL we have to remove. So here A and B, this is open circuit voltage, this is 5 ohms, this is 6 ohms, and this is 4 ohms. This is 40 volts. So we have to find the current I. So that is found using this formula. Here the current is 0. Okay, so applying KVL, I is equal to 40 by 6 plus 4. Then VAB is equal to, it is a voltage across the 6 ohms. So we get 6 into 4 is equal to 24 volts. Question 8. For transfer of maximum power in the circuit shown in figure, the value of RL should be. So the circuit is given here. You have to look at the circuit and calculate the value of RL. So the options are A 3.5 ohms, B 6.4 ohms, C 7.4 ohms, D 15 ohms. So what is the answer? Answer is C, that is 7.4 ohms. Now let us see how we get this answer. Here the circuit, what you have to do over here is, we have to short circuit the voltage source and the sources and the resistances we have to consider here. So here, and this is open circuited, so we have to find the equivalent resistance when we look through the terminals AB. So here this is 4 ohms, this is 6 ohms, and this is 5 ohms. Therefore this 4 ohms and 6 ohms are parallel, so you have to find that, and this 5 ohms is in series with the combination. So we get the answer as 2.4 plus 5, that is 7.4 ohms. Question 9. The maximum power transferred to the load in the following circuit is. The circuit is given. So the options are A 2.5 watts, B 1 watt, C 25 watt, D 10 watts. Answer is A. So let us see how you get the answer A. A is 2.5 watts. So what you have to do over here is, first you have to find the current. So what is the current over here? Or you have to apply the maximum power transfer theorem formula. So what is the maximum power transferred formula? P max is equal to VTH square by 4 into RL. So what is VTH? VTH is 10. So 10 square divided by 4. And what is the RL? For the power to be transferred to be maximum, RL needs to be RTH. So therefore RL is equal to 10 ohms. So you substitute RL as 10. So we have 100 by 40, which is equal to 2.5 watts. Question 10. When the load resistance is equal to the Thevenin's resistance of a network, then dash is transferred to the load from source. A. Maximum power. B. Maximum resistance. C. Minimum power. D. Maximum inductance. So the answer is A. Maximum power. So as per the maximum power transfer theorem, the maximum amount of power will be dissipated in the load resistance if it is equal in value to the Thevenin's resistance of the network supplying the power. Question 11. According to maximum power transfer theorem, delivered to load is A. ITH into RTH, B. VTH square by 4 RTH, C. VTH into RTH, D. RTH into ITH into VTH. So the answer is B. VTH square by 4 RTH. So let us see how we get this. As per maximum power transfer theorem, for maximum power to be transferred, RL should be equal to RTH. Therefore, IL is equal to VTH by RTH plus RTH. So here how this is got is, we have, this is the equivalent circuit over here for maximum power transfer. Here this is RTH and this is RL, where RL is equal to RTH for maximum power transfer, and this is VTH. Therefore IL is equal to, so how is IL calculated? This is the way. IL equal VTH by RTH plus RTH. Therefore P max is equal to I square R. So here I in the sense IL square RTH. So VTH by RTH plus RTH the whole square into RTH. So we get VTH square by 4 into RTH. Question 12. The value of RL for which maximum power transfer takes place in the network shown is. So the answers are A 3 ohms, B 12 ohms, C 6 ohms and D 2 ohms. So the answer is D. So let us see how we get the answer. So as per the given circuit, we have to find the value of RL. So value of RL, the 10 volt is shorted, then we have 3 ohms, then 6 ohms and the 3 ohms. So this is the circuit and we have to find RTH in this way. So this is 6 ohms, this is 3 ohms and this is 3 ohms. In this case, now here this is short, so this we have to neglect. So our circuit will be only so much, 6 ohms in parallel with the 3 ohms. This is 3 ohms and this is 6 ohms. Therefore 6 into 3 by 6 plus 3. So the answer is 2 ohms. Question 13. For maximum power to transfer, the load resistance should be equal to A. Thevenin's resistance, B. Norton's resistance, C. Characteristic impedance, D. Input impedance of the source network. So the answer is A. Thevenin's resistance. So this is as per the maximum power transfer theorem statement. The maximum amount of power will be dissipated in the load resistance if it is equal in value to the Thevenin's resistance of the network supplying the power. Question 14. Figure A shows Norton's equivalent circuit of a network, whereas figure B shows its Thevenin's equivalent circuit. The value of VTH is A 1.5 volt, B 0.866 volts, C 3 volts, D 6 volts. So what is the answer? Answer is D, that is 6 volts. Let us see how it is 6 volts. Value of VTH is equal to IN into R. What is IN? IN is 2 amps and RN is 3 ohms. Therefore, the answer is 6 volts. Question 15. What is the value of resonant frequency if the value of C in a series RLC circuit is decreased? A is not affected, B increases, C is reduced to 0, D decreases. So the answer is B, increases. Let us see why. Resonant frequency F0 is given by 1 by 2 pi root LC. Hence, the relationship between C and resonant frequency is inverse. Therefore, as the C decreases, the resonant frequency increases. Question 16. In a series resonant circuit, the impedance at resonance is. Options are A. Z is equal to R, B. Z is equal to L by CR, C. Z is equal to CR by L and D. Z is equal to R by L. So the answer is A. Z is equal to R. For a series RLC circuit, Z is given by R plus J XL minus XC. But at resonance, we know that the impedance part is equal to 0. Therefore, Z is equal to R. Question 17. A tuned circuit is resonant at 50 kHz. Its quality factor Q is 100. The bandwidth is. Options are A 50 Hz, B 5 MHz, C 500 Hz, D 5 Hz. So the answer is C 500 Hz. Let us see how we get this answer. So the quality factor is given by F0 by bandwidth, that is resonant frequency by bandwidth. Therefore, bandwidth is equal to resonant frequency by the quality factor. So we know the resonant frequency is 50 kilo and the quality factor is 100. Therefore, we get the answer as 500 Hertz. Question 18. The narrow frequency over which the current is highest in a series resonant circuit is A. Q factor, B. Bandwidth, C. Cutoff frequency, D. Resonant frequency. Answer is D. The current is maximum at resonant frequency. Hence, the answer is D. Question number 19. Series resonance has the following condition: A. XL equal to XC, B. RL equal to R0, C. Z1 is equal to R2, D. XL is greater than XC. So the answer is A, that is XL equal to XC. At series resonance, the circuit is purely resistive, hence we have the condition XL equal to XC. Question number 20. Bandwidth endpoints on a series resonance curve are called: option A. Half frequency points, B. Half power points, C. Full frequency points, D. Full power points. Option B is the correct answer, that is half power points. The frequencies are called as half power frequencies as the power at these frequencies are exactly half. Question number 21. In series resonance, the instantaneous voltage across a pure inductor dash the current by 90 degree. Option A, in phase, B, leads, C, lags, D, none of these. So the answer is B. It leads the current by 90 degree. The instantaneous voltage across a pure inductor VL leads the current by 90 degrees. Question number 22. The circuit impedance at resonance is called as: A. Dynamic impedance, B. Pure impedance, C. Impedance, D. Resistance. The answer is option D. Resistance. The circuit is purely resistive at resonance, hence the circuit impedance is called as resistance. Question number 23. The bandwidth of a resonant circuit is sharper for: A. High IQ values, B. Low Q values, C. Independent of Q values, D. Depends on the application. Answer is option B. Low Q values. The relationship between bandwidth and the resonant frequency and quality factor is bandwidth is equal to F naught by Q. Hence, for smaller values of Q, the bandwidth will be sharper. Question number 24. In a series RLC circuit at resonance, option A, omega LC equal to 1. Option B, omega L square C square equal to 1. Option C, omega square LC equal to 1. Option D, omega square L square C square is equal to 1. So the answer is C, omega square LC equal to 1. At resonance, XL equal to XC, where omega L minus 1 by omega C equal to 0. Therefore, omega square LC minus 1 by omega C equal to 0. Therefore, omega square LC minus 1 equal to 0. Therefore, omega square LC equal to 1. Question number 25. To tune a parallel resonance circuit to a higher frequency, the capacitance should be: A. Increased, B. Decreased, C. Left alone, D. Replaced with inductance. The answer is option B. Decreased. For a parallel circuit, the resonant frequency is given by F naught equal to 1 by 2 pi root LC. Hence, capacitance should be decreased as frequency and capacitances are inversely proportional.
Question number 26. A dipole antenna is also called as. The options are Marconi antenna, Agee antenna, bidirectional antenna, and Hertz antenna. The answer is D. Hertz antenna. The explanation: the one of the most widely used antenna type is the half-wave dipole antenna. This antenna is also formally known as the Hertz antenna, after Heinrich Hertz, the who first demonstrated the existing of electromagnetic waves. The main function of the antenna is transmitting as well as receiving the signals. So Hertz antenna is also known as a dipole antenna. Question number 27. The impedance at the center of the antenna is known as, the options are characteristics impedance, B. Radiation resistance, C. Transmission impedance, and D. Recovery resistance. The answer is B. Radiation resistance. The transmission line is conducted at the center. The dipole has an impedance of 73 volt at its center, which is radiation resistance. At the resonant frequency, the antenna appears to be a pure resistance of 73 volt. So answer is radiation resistance. 28th question. What does the beam width of an antenna tell us? The options are signal strength, signal power, directivity, and degradations. The answer is C. Directivity. The measure of an antenna directivity is a beam width. The angle of the radiation pattern over which the transmitter's energy is directed or received. The beam width is measured on an antenna radiation pattern. The beam widths usually we use for find out the directivity. The given question is, what does the beam width of an antenna tell us? So using beam width we can easily find out the directivity of the antenna. So answer is C. Directivity. Question number 29. What is the power radiated by the antenna which gain called as? Options are critical power, transverse power, effective radiation power, and transmitted power. The answer is C. Effective radiated power. The power radiated by an antenna with directivity and therefore gain is called as an effective radiation pattern, ERP. The ERP is calculated by multiplying the transmitter power fed to the antenna transmitted power by the power gain AP of the antennas. Question number 30. Which of the following is the most necessary for an electric field to exist? The options are A. Current, B. Potential difference, C. Dielectric material, and D is a metal conductor. The answer is B. Potential difference. The most important thing for an electric field to exist is on a potential difference between two conductors. It is not that only a metal conductor can produce an electric field. The potential difference between a flux also produces a electric fields. Question number 31. Which of the following parameter is not a primary parameter? The options are resistance, attenuation constant, capacitance, and conductance. The answer is B. The primary parameters of the transmission line are the resistance, inductance, capacitance, and conductance. These are the primary parameter: resistance, inductance, capacitance, and conductance. The attenuation, phase, and propagation constant are the secondary parameters. Thus, the odd one out is the attenuation constant. The answer is B. Question number 32. When a transmission line has a load impedance same as that of the characteristic impedance, the line is said to be, the given options are A. Parallel, B. Perpendicular, C. Polarized, and D. Matched. The answer is D. Matched. When the transmission line load impedance is the same as that of the characteristic impedance, the line is said to be matched. In such cases, full transmission of the power will occur with minimum losses. Question number 33. The primary parameter that is associated with the electric charges is, the options are A. G. Conductance, B. Resistance, or C. Capacitance, C, and D. Inductance, L. The answer is C. Capacitance. The conductor separated by a insulating dielectrics in order to store electric charges gives rise to the capacitance effect. The capacitance is distributed in the whole conductor length. Question number 34. Which of the following does not cause the standing waves? The given options are A. Short circuit, B. Open circuit, C. High frequency high power signal, and D. Is impedance is not matched. The answer is C. High frequency high power signal. If the load at the end of the line is an open circuit or a short circuit or as an impedance other than the characteristic impedance of the line, the signal is not fully absorbed by the load. This causes the signal to get reflected back the line and cause a standing wave. Question number 35. Which of the following is not true regarding standing wave? The given options are A. In a standing wave, the energy moves towards the power source. B. In a standing waves, power loss occurs. C. Standing waves do not affect signal strength. And D. Standing waves are not desirable. The answer is C. Standing wave do not affect the signal strength. The standing waves are not desirable. Some of the energy is reflected from the end of the line and actually moves back up the line. This reflection indicates that the power produced by a generator is not totally absorbed by the load. When there is a power loss, naturally the strength of the signal goes down. 36th question. In an unmatched line, the actual signal on the line is, the options are A. The sum of the forward and reflected signal, B. The difference of the forward and reflected signal, and C. The product of forward and reflected signal, and D. The modulus of forward signals. The answer is A. In an unmatched line, standing waves are forward, which is a combination of forward and reflected signals. The signals actually on a line is simply the algebraic sum of the forward and reflected signals. Question number 37. In amplitude modulation, the instantaneous values of the carrier amplitude changes in accordance with the amplitude and frequency variation of the modulating signal. The given options are first A, true, and next options is false. The answer is A, true. We know modulation is the process of changing the some characteristics of the carrier signal. So in case of amplitude modulation, amplitude of the carrier signal is varying accordance with respect to message signal. In amplitude modulation, the amplitude of the carrier sine wave is varied by the value of the information signal or message signal. The instantaneous value of the carrier amplitude changes in accordance with the amplitude and frequency variation of the modulating signals. The carrier frequency remains constant during the modulation process, but its amplitude is varying in accordance with the modulating signal. So in any modulation process, carrier signal frequency is much greater than the modulating signal frequency or information signal frequency. Question number 38. What is the line connecting the positive and negative peaks of the carrier wave called? The given options are A. Peak line, B. Maximum amplitude ceiling, C. Modulation index, and D. is envelope. The answer is D. Envelope. An imaginary line connecting the positive peaks and negative peaks of the carrier wave gives the exact shape of the modulating information signal. This line is also known as envelope or eye level signals, eye level AM signal. 39th question. What happens when the amplitude of the modulating signal is greater than the amplitude of the carrier? The given options are A. Decay, B. Distortion, C. Amplification, D. Attenuation. The answer is B. Distortion. The zero reference line of the modulating signal coincides with the peak value of the unmodulated carrier. Because of this, the relative amplitudes of the carrier and modulating signals are important. When the amplitude of the modulating signals is greater than the amplitude of the carrier, distortions will occur. So in any modulation technique, frequency and amplitude of the carrier is much greater than the information signals or modulating signal. Otherwise, we will get the distortion or over or under modulations. Question number 40. What is the circuit used for producing a AM called? Options are A. Modulator, B. Transmitter, C. Receiver, and D. Duplexer. The option is A. Modulator. The circuit used for producing a amplitude modulation is called a modulator. It has two inputs, the carrier and the modulating signal, and the resulting output is the modulated signals. The amplitude modulation compute the product of the carrier and modulating signal. So what is the circuit used to produce the AM? AM is stand for amplitude modulation. So if you want to produce the amplitude modulation, we need two signals, and signals are carrier signal and information signal or message signal. The amplitude modulation is exactly it's equal to product of the input signals. The input signals are message signal M of t and carrier signal C of t. So here answer is A, modulator. Question number 41. The radio between the modulating signal voltage and the carrier voltage is called. The options are A. Amplitude modulation, B. Modulation frequency, C. Modulation index, and D. Radio of modulation. The answer is C. Modulation index. For undistorted modulation to occur, the voltage of the modulating signal Vm must be less than the carrier voltage Vc. Therefore, the relationship between the amplitude of the modulating signal and the amplitude of the carrier signal is important. The relationship known as the modulation index M. The ratio of the modulation index is equal to Vm divided by Vc. The Vm is the modulating signal voltage and Vc is the carrier signal voltage. The Vm and Vc are the peak amplitude of the signals. Question number 42. When does overmodulation occurs? Options are A. Modulating signal voltage less than carrier voltage. B. Modulating signal voltage greater than carrier voltage. C. Modulating signal voltage is equal to carrier voltage. And D. Modulating signal voltage is equal to 0. The answer is B. Modulating signal voltage is greater than carrier voltage. The overmodulation is a condition in which the modulating signal voltage is much greater than the carrier voltage. The received signal will produce an output waveform in the shape of the envelope whose negative peaks have been clipped off. Question number 43. The frequency modulation or FM signal is better than amplitude modulation AM signal because options are A. Less immune to noise, B. Less adjacent channel interference, C. Amplitude limiters are used to avoid amplitude variation, and D. All of the above. The answer is D. All of the above. FM signal is better than AM signal because FM signals are less immune to noise. Guard bands are provided for the less adjacent channel interference, so it is easily to be recovered in case in demodulations, and amplitude limiters are used to avoid the amplitude variations that are caused while transmission due to noise. The question number 44. Wideband frequency modulation or FM as the characteristics. Options are the frequency sensitivity K subscript F is a large, B bandwidth is wide, C both A and B, and D is none of the above. The answer is C both A and B. The bandwidth of the FM signal depends upon the frequency sensitivity Kf. When Kf is large, the bandwidth of the FM signal becomes wide and it's known as wideband FM signal. A large number of sidebands are produced in a FM signal. The bandwidth of the wideband FM signal is very large as compared to that of an AM signal. So answer is C both A and B, and A is the frequency sensitivity Kf is large and B is bandwidth is wide. 45th question. The ratio of maximum peak frequency deviation and the maximum modulating signal frequency in termed as A. Frequency deviation, B. Deviation ratio, C. Signal to noise ratio, and D. Frequency spectrum. The answer is B. Deviation ratio. In frequency modulation, deviation ratio is a ratio of the maximum peak frequency deviation and the maximum modulating signal frequency. Mathematically, the deviation ratio dr is given by dr it's equal to delta f maximum divided by fm maximum. F is the frequency and FM is the modulating signal frequency. Question number 46. The increase or decrease in the frequency around the carrier frequency is termed as. The options are A. Figure factor, B. Frequency deviation, C. Modulation index, and D. Frequency spectrum. The answer is B. Frequency deviation. In FM, as the amplitude of the modulating signals changes, the frequency of the carrier changes from the central frequency. This is known as a frequency deviation. So answer is B. Frequency deviation. 47th question. Phase locked loop can be used as. Options are A. FM demodulator, B. AM demodulator, C. FM receiver, and D. AM receiver. The answer is A. FM demodulator. So using phase lock loop, we can easily demodulate the FM signal. In PLL or phase locked loop is used as a FM demodulator. It is a high performance FM detector due to its key advantages such as a linearity and low manufacturing cost. Question number 48. Change in the instantaneous phase of the carrier with change in the amplitude of the modulating signals generates. The options are A. Direct FM, B. Indirect FM, C. SSB SC, single sideband suppressed carrier, and D is DSB SC, double sideband suppressed carrier. The answer is B. Indirect FM. Indirect FM is obtained by modulation of the phase of the carrier, that is the instantaneous phase of the carrier varies with the amplitude of the modulating signal. The crystal controlled oscillator are used to generate indirect FM, and then the result in passes through a frequency multiplier to convert the signal into a wideband FM signals. The question number 49. Pre-emphasis is done A. For boosting of modulating signal voltage, B. For modulating signal at higher frequencies, C. In FM before modulation, and D. All of the above. The answer is D. All of the above. Pre-emphasis is done for boosting the relative amplitude of the modulating voltages at higher audio frequencies. In this method, the artificial emphasis of the high frequency components of the message signal is done before modulation in the transmitter. This is done because of the noise is louder at higher frequencies. So, pre-emphasis is done before the noise is added in the communication channel. So, in transmitter section, we have to emphasize the signals or emphasize the message signals. Question number 50. The modulation index of FM is given by. The given options are A. Modulation index mu, it's equal to frequency deviation divided by modulating frequency. B. Modulating frequency by frequency deviation. C. Modulating frequency by carrier frequency, and D. Mu, it's equal to carrier frequency by modulating frequency. The answer is A. The modulation index mu, it's equal to frequency deviation divided by modulating frequency FM. The modulation index is the measure of how much the modulation parameters changes from its unmodulated values. The modulation index of FM is given by mu, it's equal to frequency deviation divided by modulating frequency, it's equal to delta f. So delta f is the change of frequency divided by fm, where delta f is the peak frequency deviation, that is the deviation in the instantaneous value of the frequency with modulating signals, and f subscript m is the value of the modulating frequency or message frequency. Thank you.